So it's quite promising, and we're excited about what is happening on our study.
Imugene is making some progress with its mission of treating diffuse large B-cell lymphoma, a deadly type of blood cancer. And there's now some new data from its phase 1b clinical trial suggesting the treatment is now proven to be more effective. For more on this, the company's managing director and CEO, Leslie Chong, joins me now. Leslie, it's wonderful to have you with us today to talk about this. How are you?
Thank you, Fawad, for having me on. I'm delighted to talk about our latest news on Azer-cel.
It's our absolute pleasure, and I think this is a very important topic for millions of people who would be very eager to find out more about this. Let's kick off with the 5 additional patients that have been dosed since your last announcement in February, Leslie. They've responded to the treatment with 2 additional complete responses and 3 partial responses. How promising is this, and what does this really mean?
So I'm happy that you asked me that question. So just to define what complete responses mean in this disease state, a complete uh, no sign of cancer. They're cancer free. And so they can only get a designation of complete response if they're cancer free. And that's exactly I'm delighted for these 2 patients who have gone through several different lines of therapy prior to coming on to Azer-cel, and now they're living cancer free. Partial response, by definition, is simply 50%, at least 50% cancer free, but we just have a little bit more ways to go. Sometimes it takes T cells roughly about 2 to 3 months to actually start clearing up the big tumor burden that these cancer population has. And so we're anticipating further response rates. So the fact that we announced in February 4 out of 7 complete responses, and then we added the 5 patients that came on, and two have already reached complete responses, and 3 are at least 50% of their cancer gone, is quite, I'm delighted because these cancer patients have seen at least 3 lines of therapies prior to coming on to Azer-cel. That means they've actually failed off of a very expensive, laborious therapy called autologous CAR T. So their disease is in dire state by the time they come to us on our clinical trial. So they're usually on their fourth, fifth, or sixth line of care.
Let's just take a bit of a step back here, Leslie, and focus on one very important point you mentioned just then. The durability data is now continuing to mature from what you've released this morning, but we understand, like you rightfully mentioned, that the first patient dosed is now 15 months cancer-free. How promising and how confident are you of that?
So the FDA's benchmark for approval in this setting has been 50% response rate with at least 6 months durability. The fact that we are in, again, fourth, fifth, sixth line, and we're still maintaining the 50% complete response and actually 75% overall response rate, with that due to change over time in a better way. And our durability, our best durability is going out to 15 months and greater. That particular patient had 4 prior lines of therapy to include auto CAR T. So it's quite promising, and we're excited about what is happening on our study.
And Leslie, what else can we expect in terms of updates from this trial and from the study in the coming weeks?
So, as I've stated, we are in that later line of therapy, the auto CAR T failures. We are now including what's called an auto CAR T naive, those patients who've never had exposure to auto CAR T. And so it's a true unmet need, and it's a dire blood cancer disease that we might be able to go in directly after they have failed chemo, because again, our product is an allogeneic CAR T, which is off the shelf, on demand. They're available when the patient needs them. They don't have to wait for the therapy like auto CAR T, 4 to 6 weeks of manufacturing process. So we may be able to go into earlier lines of therapy and as well as in a very other aggressive types of blood cancer. So I'm quite excited to go into that space, and I anticipate that Azer-cel will be even a better responder with a better durability even than what we see now. So it's quite exciting. But even with this set of data, we have plans to go to the FDA for what's called a Type B end of phase meeting where we talk about our registrational pivotal strategy. So I'm quite excited about that.
Some wonderful news to put out to the public this morning. Imugene CEO and Managing Director Leslie Chong, thank you for those insights.
Thank you so much, Farad.